What if I told you that one of the most common pieces of advice for changing your life is just completely wrong? Today, we're going to dive into what it really takes to transform and why the real timeline for change is probably not what you've been led to believe.
All right, so let's just jump right in with a question I bet you've asked yourself a million times. Whether you're trying to hit the gym, learn an instrument, or just, drink more water, what's the magic number? How long does it actually take?
I'm willing to bet this is the number that just popped into your head, 21 days. The idea that you can totally rewire yourself in 3 weeks is everywhere. And it sounds great, right? It's a nice, neat, motivating number. The only problem? It's a complete myth.
Okay, so if it's a myth, then where in the world did it come from? To really get to the truth, we first have to understand the origin story of the myth itself.
Believe it or not, this whole thing started way back in 1960 with a plastic surgeon named Maxwell Maltz. He noticed that his patients, some of whom were amputees, took a minimum, and I'm stressing that word, minimum, of 21 days to adjust to their new self-image. Now, this was a fascinating observation about how we adapt psychologically, but that's all it was, an observation. It was never meant to be a hard and fast rule for building new habits, but somehow that's exactly what it became.
So, if 21 days is out the window, what does the real science say? Let's look at what happened when researchers actually studied people trying to build habits out in the real world. The real, science-backed average is actually closer to this, 66 days. This number comes from a huge study back in 2010 at University College London. Researchers tracked people who were trying to form all kinds of new habits, from eating a piece of fruit every day to going for a 15-minute run.
And here's the crucial insight from that study. It took, on average, 66 days for a new behavior to become automatic, to feel like second nature. But get this, the range was massive. For some people, it was as little as 18 days, but for others, it took as long as 254 days. Just think about what that means. If you're aiming for 21 days and it's not working, you're probably giving up right when the real work is just getting started. To make a habit truly stick, you need more time and you need a secret weapon.
And that secret weapon is what researchers call context stability. It sounds kind of technical, but it's a really simple and incredibly powerful idea. All it means is, do the new thing you want to do in the same place and at the same time every single time. It's about creating a trigger for your brain. Like your morning coffee in the kitchen becomes a trigger for 5 minutes of meditation, or seeing your running shoes by the front door right after work. And here's why this is such a game changer. A stable context doesn't just remind you to start a habit, it actually makes it way easier to do the habit. When your environment is consistent, you get rid of all that mental friction, that internal debate about what to do and how to do it. Your brain can just go on autopilot, and that, my friends, is exactly what a habit is. Okay. So we've established the average for a new habit is 66 days. So why 90 days? What's the magic there? Well, this is where we go from just forming a new behavior to creating a real, lasting transformation. See, 66 days is when an action becomes automatic, but 90 days? That's when it starts to become part of your identity.
And this is where things get really fascinating. And around the 90-day mark, something pretty incredible happens inside your brain. The control center for that new behavior literally shifts. It moves from the effortful thinking part of your brain to the automatic, unconscious part. And what's so amazing is that for centuries, Zen Buddhists have had this intense 90-day training period. They somehow understood intuitively what our modern neuroscience is just now proving with brain scans.
So, how do you actually get through this 90-day journey? Well, it helps to break it down into phases. The first couple of weeks are all about recognition, just seeing your current patterns for what they are. Then you move into disruption, where you start introducing tiny, targeted actions to create new pathways. And finally, you have integration. That's where you practice the new pattern over and over until it's not just something you do, but it becomes part of who you are.
Now, let's zoom out. Because this 90-day cycle, it's about so much more than just habits. It taps into a fundamental pattern of what it means to be human and what it means to truly change.
Have you ever noticed that? When you're right in the middle of a big life change, a new career, the end of a relationship, a personal awakening, it can feel chaotic, disorienting. It can even feel like you're breaking down. Well, there's a very good reason for that feeling. The reason change feels like a crisis is because, in a way, it is one. For a new self to emerge, an old self has to dissolve. This isn't just about adding a new good habit. It's about letting go of an entire way of being. And that can feel like a loss, because it is. And this isn't just a metaphor, this is actually happening at a biological level. Your brain is physically rewiring itself.
Old neural pathways for behaviors you don't do anymore are literally being pruned away, while new ones for the new you are being formed and strengthened. Your brain is actively letting go of who you were to make room for who you're becoming.
We've been telling ourselves stories about this exact process for thousands of years. The phoenix rising from the ashes, Persephone returning from the underworld, the Hindu deity Shiva, whose destruction makes way for new creation. These aren't just old myths, they are blueprints for our own transformations.
The great mythologist Joseph Campbell called this universal pattern the hero's journey. It's a departure from everything you know, a descent into some kind of crisis or abyss where the old self is dismantled, and then an eventual return, transformed with new wisdom. Every single time you commit to real change, you are stepping right into this timeless story. You are the hero of your own journey.
So, if change is a structured, achievable process, and if that discomfort you feel is actually a necessary part of that process, then the only question left is, what 90-day journey will you begin?